Well, good morning, folks. This is going to be a great Leading Your Best Life. I'm going to talk to Luke McCulloch. He's got a fantastic story and, in fact, a book that we're going to talk about. And we met at a men's talk function, one of the men's mental health functions, only a week or so ago. And I said, Luke, we've got to get together and talk. So, Luke, welcome to Leading Your Best Life.
Thank you, Lee. Good morning. How are you?
Mate, I'm very well, mate. And as the title says, this is about people leading their best life. And you, with your story and your book, I know that's one of the missions that you're working on these days in terms of helping men and other people, male and female, lead their best life. But Luke, maybe let's start with a short background summary of the Luke Macca story.
Righto. Yeah, mate. Look, I'm an ex-police officer. Only recently, well, in my opinion, recently resigned. So probably 2 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the police force for about 15 years. That took me all over the state of Western Australia. I was a copper in the western suburbs to start with, out at Wembley, Scarborough, Leederville. Met a partner at the time, and then went up to South Hedland. Did some lovely country service up in South Hedland for 4 years. And whilst I was there, I sort of got the opinion that I wanted to be a little bit better at policing in one specific role, not
Mm-hmm.
just generalized as general duties. And a role came up for search and rescue divers. So I applied for that at the time. I'd never dived previously. I was always comfortable and happy in the water. So I put in for that. Long story short, I ended up getting in, and I spent the next 8 years of my career there, which I absolutely loved, and I just stumbled across it. I was very, very lucky. I've then since left the police force. I'm now working in a training environment for oil and gas, and then just recently I managed to publish a book that I'd written about the last couple of years as a search and rescue diver, and that's where I met yourself at a men's talk because I was lucky enough to have Paul Litwin, the CEO of Men's Talk, asked me to come in and just provide a little bit about what it was about, being that men's health and men's sort of suicide prevention, definitely, because I definitely went through my little part of that within the police force.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's where it's sort of taken me.
Fantastic. We'll delve into some of that, particularly in and around the men's mental health and the police
Yeah.
force and PTSD and a whole range of things there. So from let's just go back to, so what motivated you, what triggered you to want to write the book? And while we're at it, why don't we just show people it's available on Amazon. Tales of a Diver, Profundus Obscurus Sordidus. Tell
I
us,
did it.
what the heck is all that about?
That's that was actually a part that I wasn't planning on putting in the title. It was actually my wife that recommended that.
Yeah.
It's our Latin motto at the dive squad. It actually means deep, dark, and dirty.
Deep, deep, dark, and dirty.
Yeah,
But
it causes a couple of questions every now and then, but essentially that's the kind of water that we're diving in, unfortunately.
mm,
A lot of people ask me whilst I was in the dive squad, and I'm sorry, I haven't ignored your question initially. I'll get back to that in a second.
yeah, sure.
It definitely, it's not deep diving. 98% of our dives, I think, were in the realms of 3 to 8 meters.
Hmm.
But could we see anything? Absolutely not. Your face in front of your mask, you literally couldn't see anything at the time, which renders a lot of your searching techniques to just touch and feel. So,
Mm.
hence, yeah, deep, dark, and dirty. And yeah, it definitely sparks some questions straight away when people read it, as you just asked then. So, in terms of what made me want to write it, it stems from a 10-day operation that we did back in 2000, or it started in 2000, and it went over the New Year's period, just before COVID hit, actually.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
the 10-day operation took us from going to Geraldton for what I thought at the time was going to be a 2-day operation for a missing person. We're on the way there. We started searching that afternoon when we got to Geraldton, when we got another call saying that there was a missing person now down in Esperance as well.
Mm.
Now, the police dive squad only has 8 members in it, and they cover the entire state of Western Australia. So, with only 8 of us and 4 being required to go to a job at any one time as a minimum, um, we were literally the only four persons. There was one other back in Perth that could switch in, but it meant it was pretty much going to be our team. So we had to finish that job there and then. The next day, luckily enough, we came across the missing person. We did the recovery on that one. Started driving back to Perth, flew down to Esperance just because time was, running closely behind us. We didn't manage to recover that person in Esperance, but when we left Esperance, we flew off in the police airplane, and we were literally over Ravensthorpe, I think 25,000 feet above air, and we got told to do a U-turn and head straight back to Esperance because there was then a shark attack that had occurred there for a scuba diver. So we headed back down, continued then to search there for 2 or 3 days for that one. We found a couple of pieces of crucial evidence, being the cylinder, BCD, and stuff like that, but no person, unfortunately. So he was never found. But on the last day of searching, the previous Esperance job person that was missing, they had, I want to try and make it sound as nice as possible, but they had floated to the surface and was then spotted by some civilians. So we had to hightail it back to that location. Whilst we were retrieving them, though, 2 great white sharks started circling around and started having a bit of a field day, unfortunately, on the person. So we had to navigate around that as well. And then you wouldn't believe it, we got another call that afternoon to head to then Denmark for another possible job where there was believed to be human remains under a reef system. So what turned into, well, what was a 2-day event that we thought we'll pack a bag for 2 nights, ended up being a 10-day operation. And I was on the way home from it. We ended up getting someone from Water Police drive down, sorry, I should say, to us to then drive us home, just due to fatigue, and there was no available. And I remember thinking to myself, like, this is a really, really interesting job that we do. It's a really interesting story. And I purely wanted to do it at the time to write a manuscript for family, if I ever had any kids. My family understands what I do, but just the ins and outs of it. So I started writing it in the car. Didn't think it'd go anywhere. I'm definitely not an English literature student, that's for sure. I think I passed high school with 51% in English, so I'm never going to amalgamate to anything in that regard. But it took about a month. I'd finished the first, what I didn't know at the time to be the first chapter, and realized I was starting to forget some things. I wanted to finite the details of it. So I then took the next 2 months to probably take some notes on it. Any good copper is very good at taking notes because we obviously forget things. So I took some notes, and then over the next year and a half, it probably took me just to go on various camping trips with my partner. I'd just be sitting on the laptop typing away, and I didn't realize at the
What
time.
great company you were on a camping trip, mate. Eh?
Well, it's funny because all she does is read. It's great.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So she was reading away. I was typing away. I can't read. I lose concentration within about 2 pages, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I was finishing that off, and before I knew it, I'd finished the story as such. And it sort of stems into a couple of different things. It talks about the selection course process, which is quite an arduous one to
Mate,
get.
incredible. You've given me that chapter on cutting the piece of metal underwater and go back and help each other and talk
Yeah,
about, the hard taskmaster, but of course it tests resilience and
yeah,
certainly
definitely.
tests whether you're going to be able to put up with the dirty and the dark and the cold.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then it's funny, we should probably have a Latin word for cold in it as well, because that's half the battle as well most of the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so we finished it off, and I'll be honest, at the time when I was still in the police force and I'd finished it, I was not too keen on doing anything with it apart from showing family. Reason being is I was pretty much just too concerned about the red tape and what I would have to do within the police force to get it across the line.
Yeah.
Respectfully so. I completely understand that. So I never bothered about it. And it stayed on the computer. I then subsequently left the police force, joined a new job, and my wife now, she actually surprised me one Christmas by learning how to bind a book and actually make one properly, and she made a copy for me for
What a
Christmas.
woman. No
Oh,
wonder you
yeah.
married her. How good's that?
Exactly. And to be honest, like I wouldn't have gotten anywhere near where I am now with the publishing without her, that's for sure. So quick shout out
Fantastic.
to her. So she gave me that copy. She made 2 copies. I handed it around to family and friends who were just interested, and a couple of my new workmates. And it was then that people started saying, "Mate, this is an awesome story that you should do something with it." I
mm,
looked into a couple of different publishers. I'd officially resigned the police force at that stage, so that sort
mm,
of fear of the red tape was gone. And I found a publisher called In-House Publishing. They seemed to have thought that I had a winner, and they were willing to look into the printing side of things for me. It was still a cost to myself. It wasn't someone just paying for it.
mm.
I would have to do a lot of the marketing, but in turn, it meant that I made a lot more profit with this particular company as opposed to some others. And mate, it's just grown from there. I actually, so we got married in March. We went down on the honeymoon down south for a quick 1 week away just to switch everything off, and that's when I got my first copy of the book, and we wanted to go live with it. Again, awesome wife on her honeymoon, she wants to go live with my book.
What
Um,
a woman. Tick, 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 tick.
exactly.
Behind every man, a great woman indeed.
That's the bit. That's it. And we opened it up, and with the company that I chose to publish, they had the quantities of 100, 250, or 500. That's what I could choose from. And
Mm,
at that stage, I was like, 100, I'm very, very happy with. I don't
mm,
know if I want to go to the extent of 250.
mm, mm,
We opened it up, and within 24 hours, I was going to wait for 2 weeks to see sort of how many we were going to get and see what to
mm.
order. And within 24 hours, we'd sold 104 online,
Fantastic.
which was great.
Yeah.
It just goes to show the support that I have around me in terms of friends and family and colleagues and whatnot.
Mm,
Then within a week, we had sold the initial 250, ordered another 250,
mm.
and now it's just starting to branch out more in terms of things like men's mental health with Men's Talk. We've
Yep.
got various libraries that I'm now booked into for the second half of the year. Men's Shed have jumped on board, and a couple other organisations as well, which I can't wait to talk to more people about, and some ex-veteran organisations too, which I'm really keen on.
Fantastic, mate. That's what a great story. I just made notes there. One, the great line, do something with it. Do something with it. And it's just grown. But also the note I've made is interestingly, only last week I did an interview with an old client of mine, VJ Watson. Now, for his 60th birthday, he wrote a book. This is your dog barking.
Sorry.
That's all right. He wrote a book, a birthday for his 60th birthday. He wrote a book, which he mentioned the coaching that I'd done with him and his team 40 years ago with. And then for his 70th birthday, he has written a movie, and the movie's been produced and in fact has already won 6 international awards. In fact, it's coming to Perth next week where I'm going out to watch it. It was shot in Sri Lanka. But again, it starts with an idea. And in his case, I really wrote the book originally just for friends and family. And
Mm.
then it went from there. And again, another good mate of mine, Robert Menzies, played water polo for Australia in the 72 Olympics in Munich, wanted to write essentially his history and story for his yet unborn grandchildren.
Yeah.
And off the back of that, it's become this whole book on water polo and Olympian's journey and where his family came from and so on. But so it's interesting how that starts with, I'm really just doing this for my family, but then it
Yeah.
grows beyond that. So, mate, let's talk about the men's mental health area and maybe tell us your story in regard to that and your relationship with your own mental health, good, bad, up, down, otherwise. And then let's talk about, obviously, as you say, the police force and veterans and men's mental health more broadly. But let's start with your story and your relationship with mental health and the dark side. What happened there
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, so and sorry, I sort of skipped over that part on the book. So when I had finished the story as such, I do remember saying to Maddie, my wife, and going, "Oh, look, I finished it, but I don't know, it doesn't feel finished to me." So it
Mm,
did just stay on the laptop for a little bit
mm,
longer until a particular job occurred, whereby it was down in Walpole. We had a young, I think it was 7, 8 year old
mm,
boy had drowned and got caught up
mm,
in a cave, basically.
mm.
We went down there, and look, it wasn't unnormal. Sorry, I shouldn't say that word. It wasn't my first child,
Yeah.
definitely in terms of body recoveries and stuff like that.
Mm,
And God, at this stage of my career, I quite frankly, I'd lost count of the amount of people I'd seen in terms of recoveries and stuff like that, especially with
mm,
my dive squad. It
mm.
be up around the 30 to 40, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't the fact that it was a child that was bothering me as such. It was the fact that due to the bureaucracy, risk assessment side of things, different organizations working together, we ended up after about a day or two, we found this child
Mm,
in this sort of cave system at the bottom of a waterfall.
mm,
But we literally just could not get to him. It
mm,
was it was virtually impossible without stemming the flow of this waterfall going into the actual cave.
mm. Too much water pressure or whatever.
Basically, yeah, if we'd sent
Mm.
a diver in there, we literally wouldn't have been able to pull them out.
Oh, gee.
With the help of a couple of big organizations, Fugro being one, oil and gas company, subsea surface company, they were just amazing the way that they worked with us. But I think where my frustration came from, and I only learnt this after the fact,
Hmm.
was just that we couldn't do the job. We couldn't achieve what we were set out to achieve. And obviously that's what we all want to do. We want to help people. We want to bring, loved ones, their family that they've lost essentially. And it was this sort of impending doom of failure that I
Mm,
didn't like and I was quite frustrated about. Did I know it was frustration at the time? Absolutely not. I was probably just angry, and we succeeded in the end. One of my really really good friends now. He was actually at the men's talk the other day. Um, Chris. He's mentioned in the book obviously as well as Jake. He was the brave person to be able to eventually, when we stemmed the waterfall, go into the cave and retrieve the body of the young fella. He's duly been obviously awarded the Commendation of Bravery Award for that only just recently. So
So
good.
it's still quite risky to go in there and
Oh,
retrieve, was it? Yeah.
100%. I remember him talking about it after, and he was basically saying it was like a 360 version of Twister. That's how I had to go through this cave,
Oh, oh my
and I
God.
just had a hand on this foot, and I then snaked back out. He handed the body to me as he climbed over me, and we were then able to actually give this body back to its family.
How the heck did someone even see the body in that crevice anyway?
So we actually, on the other side of the cave, because we thought there may
On the
have
other
been
side
a
of the
cave in
cave.
there, there was a
Mm-hmm.
hole that was put through a little crack with a GoPro camera on it.
Ah,
We
right. Yeah.
managed to see a foot or a hand of some
Right,
sort.
right, right. Wow,
So
wow.
we went, right, he's in there. We've stemmed the flow of the river, and then we managed to get him out.
Mm,
Obviously, a massive, massive job.
mm,
Big relief at the end to achieve what we needed to achieve. But I went
mm,
home and I just wasn't myself.
mm,
My partner at the time, sorry,
mm,
my girlfriend, she's now my wife, that's what I
mm,
meant.
mm,
She says now that I wasn't quite the same. I was a bit quiet. I wasn't quite snappy, but I was short fused.
mm,
And I didn't think anything was wrong. I thought I'd talk to my mates about it and it was
mm,
all good. It was going to be the same as any other one. But
mm,
this one just for some reason affected me differently. I also, during the last couple of years of my policing career, was involved with part-time negotiators. And we had it was a, I don't even remember what month it was now. There was some gathering, whether it was like a Christmas in July or a Christmas event. And I went out to the city with them. And I think you've referred to the terminology as drinking and dumbing, or what
yeah, numbing and dumbing.
numbing and dumbing, 100%. Yep, got into that. So I had a really big night on the booze. I was on the way home and just broke down in the middle of Beaufort Street. Got out of an Uber and just lost it. Don't know why.
In tears, you
Yeah,
mean? Or,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Tears
crying,
just
yeah. It all
poured
just
right
came
onto
out.
onto the side of the road.
Mm,
Had to call Maddie. She came and got me, luckily enough. And then the next day, I had a horrible, horrible hangover,
of
obviously.
course. Mm,
My dad came around. Maddie had
mm,
the guts to call him and say, "Hey,
mm,
do you want to come and have a chat with Luke?" Now,
mm.
for reference, my dad's a police officer as well, which
Right.
made my career heaps easier. He still
Mm,
is. He's in forensics at Fingerprints. So
mm,
he came around, and I think this is what I was talking about the other night with men's talk with respect to I I've never had an issue talking about things. Probably identifying that one for me for the first time was a big one. I've
mm,
always been there for mates. I've always been happy to talk about mental health, but when it was myself all of a sudden and
mm,
something was affecting me, I was blind to it and just didn't see
mm,
it.
mm,
However, my dad, being that big, blokey, burly guy that I've always grown up and looked up to,
mm,
For him just to come up to me and say, "Hey, is everything all right?" And I went,
mm,
"No, not really."
mm, mm,
Obviously, some more tears, and I wasn't
mm,
too happy at the time.
mm,
Went and chatted to Maddie again, and when we finished that job in Walpole, the police chaplain actually offered his services up for us as well, and said, "If you ever need to have a chat, let me know." So straight away, I thought, "All right, I better check in with that." He was awesome as well. He
mm,
straight onto the police psych. I went and had a chat with her. She was amazing as well. Everyone was really good. As soon as it was identified, and I could say, "Yep, put my hand up, something's wrong." It was assisted and helped. The the part that was awesome to work out though, when I finished those psych appointments, and I think I only went to 3 or 4, it was good to just to identify that at the end of it, the psych was saying to me, she was like, "I don't think you're actually upset, and I don't think you're," I shouldn't put it in the terms of bothered, but
mm,
the child side of it, which everyone would assume, I think, is the part that would really get to you.
mm, mm,
Think it's just the frustration of everything and how you couldn't get done what you wanted to get done as soon as you wanted to get it done,
mm,
and how that part bothered you. Yes, there's obviously the horrible traumatic side of a child as well. No one wants to see that. No one needs to see that. But once I realized that and I could identify it, I think that settled it for me.
mm,
It's still a horrible job, and I don't like thinking about it too much, obviously.
mm,
But it's
mm,
good to just identify and then realize that sometimes we can be blind to these things.
mm,
It's great to have the support network around you that can identify that for you, and
mm,
as long as you're happy to go and then get the help that you need after.
mm, mm. So in those, I mean, there's a lot of things there. So um, let's just say from all those, both the conversations with your dad, the conversation, and again, this is the power of conversation, which is why we
Yeah.
talk about men's talk, having a constructive conversation with someone who listens with I suppose, a listening ear. Um, as a think from, mate, you'll be right, mate. Just have a couple of beers and get a
Yeah.
good night's sleep. You'll be okay, mate.
Yeah.
No, between your dad, who of course being in the police force would have seen many things, both in both from the police situation, how police have responded to, if we talk about stimulus response or stress response. Um, he's seen, as we know, PTSD and mental health is an issue in police force. So your dad's seen it, the chaplain, the psych. What have you learned about the process of healing conversations or therapeutic conversations, things that worked for you or you heard them say or it got you to talk about or reflect on? What have you learned about that therapeutic conversation process?
Few things. I suppose, as I said, from coming from a person who I deeply admire, being my dad, he's a very big role model for me. For him to have always been that big, burly, copper, blokey bloke growing up, I think even for him to just say something as simple as, you're all right at the moment. And
Mm,
I already knew that he knew what was going
mm,
on.
mm,
That's why
mm,
he was there.
mm,
Um, for him to have said that, that just lowered me straight away, or lowered the brick wall, I suppose, which I
mm,
didn't even know was up.
mm,
So definitely
mm,
having that person open that forum up for you, that's a big learning curve. And knowing that just something very simple like saying that from that type of a role model is massive. Um, I suppose. So the question again. Sorry, I had a few.
Well, what did you learn about therapeutic conversations? A conversation that, as you
Okay.
say, not only gets you to open up, but gets you to start to process, understand, release, heal, move to the next stage of, say, the healing journey.
Yeah, the next thing as well was also just people who actually are listening and
Mm,
active listening.
mm,
So the psych for me was a massive one. I never thought I'd need a psych. I even that terminology of need a psych. I've got a very
mm,
good friend now that uses a psych, and he just calls it a sort of a life mentor now.
mm,
Goes there once every 2 or 3 months. Doesn't necessarily say that there's any issues, but just has a chat and talks about what's going on, which this very much opened that mindset up. Would I ever start engaging in that? maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but I know now that it's not you have to have a problem per se, quote unquote, to go to a psych.
Yep.
Um, I always thought that there had to be some major, major drama, I suppose, to go.
Mm, mm,
Don't get me
mm,
wrong, I'm a very blokey bloke as well in
mm.
that sense. So, whilst I was always open to helping others with mental health, didn't realize it could affect me. And
That's right.
and I was a
I can help
perfect,
others, but
yeah,
okay, mate. No, no, I'm helping you.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I was, I mean, now if I look back, I was a perfect experiment for that. Like the recipe of it was just
Yeah,
like a perfect storm waiting
yeah,
to happen. And I'm
yeah,
like, quite frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened more for me,
yeah.
or possibly will happen later on, which leads me to the fact that I surround myself, and I have surrounded myself unknowingly with people who know how to listen, know how to actively listen, and that was massive for me in my last career as well with the negotiators, and having that sort of empathetic, active listening, and even emotional intelligence as well, and
Yeah.
identifying that for myself. So whilst I had this opinion of if you spoke to a psych, it was because you were sad, upset, then working out that I was actually more angry and frustrated, and there's a difference in that, why that would help me, what I could do to help that. One of the big things that I still use to this day, if I'm just having a horrible shit day at work, is just identifying different sensories around me. And that's what the psych taught me at the time. If I was talking about my Walpole experience and that child job, that if I'm building up all of a sudden, getting emotional, just work out 5 things that I can see all of a sudden. Then
Mm.
4 things I can touch, 3 things I can smell, 2 things I can taste. And it's, I suppose it's a similar process to, I suppose, breathing, meditating,
Mm.
ice baths, all that kind of stuff. It just stops your flow, it stops that train of thought that's going down that rabbit hole, brings you back to earth and goes, all right, cool. It's not that bad at the moment. Chill out. Let's take over. Let's not let those emotions run away and run wild. So that definitely helped as well. Yeah.
Wow, that's I'd never heard of that. Four, five things you can see, four touch, three. So as you say, immediately it takes now. What that brings me to one of the areas of study I've done a lot of work in over the years is an area called neuro-linguistic programming, which talks about the relationship between the nervous system, our linguistic, how we talk to ourselves and other people, and then the conditioning and the program that we bring to the
Mm,
table. So you're talking there at the moment by doing that, NLP would call that a state changer because we're changing what we're focusing on. So rather than, as you say, dwelling on the stress or the problem or that didn't work or the fucking why didn't that happen and versus like what can I see, what can I take? It's a state changer or a state breaker, a pattern interrupt. What a great simple but powerful set of tools.
yeah.
Talking of that, you've mentioned things like ice baths and breathing. Tell me about some of the. Have you done some of those things over the time? Breath work, or meditation. What are some of the things you've done and that you've been advised to do, or you've discovered yourself in terms of healing yourself, or making yourself become the best person you can be?
Look, I've definitely jumped on the ice bath train. I've made my own one at home now.
Oh, oh,
My
really?
gym, my CrossFit gym, had one for a little while, and I always knew I kind of liked it, and I think it also stems from just the diving side of things within the police force. I like the cold now. I love it. Quite
Mm.
frankly, this weather that we're having at the moment is just ace. I love it. I don't like the heat anymore.
Yeah.
And I also do it for other various reasons, which we'll talk about in a second. But when my gym got the ice bath, I thought, oh, I'll give this thing a go. It's the latest craze, and I jumped in, and I suppose breath work comes with that because you're hyperventilating.
You got to manage
Absolutely
your breath.
have to
Exactly.
control it. Yeah. Do I do other forms of breath work? No, I don't know if I would get much out of it. But the ice bath just again, it's probably exactly the same sense of it stops me in my train of thought. If I'm having a bad day, I know if I jump in that, I'm just going to nuke anything there and then and move
Literally, you
back.
got to. I think that's a great term. You got to nuke it because
Yeah.
you have to be present, managing your state in that ice
Yeah.
bath.
Yeah, you can't
Absolutely.
not be. It's just um I also I think I love it as well because it brings in a sense of adrenaline for me, and I probably subconsciously miss that from the police
Mm,
force.
mhm, mhm.
I'm still young enough to do all that kind of stuff, and I enjoy it.
Sure.
Um, do I now have a better work-life relationship? Definitely.
Mm.
But I like that adrenaline dump and that hyperventilation, and I get out and I'm amped up again, and yeah, I get that fix, I suppose, and I do one every day now. So when I realized I was enjoying the gym one and I was making a way to get to the gym every day to do it, I went, oh, stuff this, I'm going to look into it. So I bought a big chest freezer. I've coated it with an epoxy paint, bought all the filters and the stuff, and it's just outside now in my backyard. And I get home from work every day and I'll religiously jump in that, especially on those days. I'll go a bit,
Tough days. Yeah.
yeah, I'll go a bit longer if I've had it just a crack.
So what temperature roughly is that water in that you jump into at home?
I'll sit mine at 4 to 5 degrees. And
I know, because I think I sent you the podcast with Pete from Rec Lab. Did I
yeah.
send you? Yeah,
Well,
right.
no, you didn't send me that one, but I found it and it piqued my interest straight away.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I jumped on
yeah,
that one big time. Yeah.
yeah.
What are those set to?
That's about 5 degrees as well. So it's like wow.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
talk about resilience, how people can be resilient. The first time you get in there, 10 or 15 or 20 seconds is forever. And eventually, Freddie and I, my training partner, I think we're doing 8 and 10 lots of 4 minutes,
yeah,
4 minutes in, 1 minute out. And it was a kind of semi-luxury to go into the warm bath, which again, Pete talks about that hot, cold contrast. They
yeah,
actually call it a contrast session. Which again, talking of resilience, I literally came across on Instagram this morning some guy that has swam the English Channel in 18 or 19 hours or whatever. Then he's done some incredible bike ride somewhere. Then he's done some incredible run. And now he's walking up Mount Everest. It's like, talk
Some
about how
incredible people in the world. Yeah,
and also how we set limitations. It's a bit like Roger Bannister in the 4 minute mile. No one could run the 4 minute mile. The body was going to blow up. Was the paradigm at the time. It's like what we think is possible versus what we actually discover is possible. Which again, coming back to some of the other guys we've interviewed, ex-SAS guys and others, which is a Navy SEAL, and you guys, your trainers would have said it in the diet. When your mind says, I can't go any further, your body can still go another
oh
10,
yeah,
20, 30% further. So the
yep.
limitations we set for ourselves is quite incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, definitely. And like that's another thing I like about the ice bath. When I first started getting into it, I remembered a quote. I'm pretty sure, I can't quite remember now, but I'm sure it was from David Goggins,
Yes,
which was make the uncomfortable be comfortable.
yes,
Um, and you definitely find you get into that state with the ice bath. And if that's the case, all of a sudden I'm finding myself getting in there and it's easy. That means turn it down or go longer or do something else to make it uncomfortable again, because I generally think that is missing from today's day and age and society. I don't think we like being uncomfortable. I don't think
yes.
we've ever liked being uncomfortable,
No,
but I think a while ago we would have been forced to have done it.
of
Whereas
course.
now with the luxuries of life and society and all that, we can stem away from a little bit further. Whereas I think if we can still bring a little bit of that into our life, we can add a lot more resilience into it as well.
Well, that's just the point, mate. I mean, first of all, Rick Charlesworth, who's the great Australian hockey coach, he'd said, my job as a coach is to make the comfortable uncomfortable and to comfort the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So when people are upset, okay, how as a coach do I comfort them? But of course, as a coach, teacher, you're the trainer in your dive course. It's my job is to get them outside their comfort zone so that you become comfortable in the discomfort zone. Like
Yeah.
in my case, we swim like literally yesterday. Well, I swim every morning at Northcott, and the storms are up at the moment. We literally went out yesterday in the storm. Needless to say, it's uncomfortable. In fact, one of the girls said, my heart rate's up, I'm going to have to go back in. She went back in. But the rest of us swam down to the pylon and back, particularly going back because you're swimming into the north.
Yeah.
You learn that, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you get comfortable
Yeah.
being uncomfortable, knowing that if I keep going, this is going to be okay. Particularly if I
Yeah.
stay relaxed in the discomfort zone. And as you say, I mean, literally what I'm doing this morning, I was on the phone as part of what I do with our water polo club. I run a series of what I call Kaizen mindset sessions. Kaizen, the Japanese term for continuous and never-ending improvement. And this will be the fourth or fifth year I've run it with our kids, and we get them age 12, age 13, age 14. And one of the principles is how do you be extraordinary? If you look at Ronaldo or David Beckham or anyone you can think of in any sport or any part of life, to be extraordinary, you do the extra. You do the
Yeah.
extra training, you do the extra work. And I use the quote of one of the great rugby union guys, which Rogers, I've forgotten his Neil Rogers. He said, mate, you may not be the biggest or the strongest, but you can be the fittest.
Yep.
No matter
Yep.
what size you are, and amazing things happens when you are the fittest. So here I am, 68 years of age. I swam twice to Rottnest last year. I did the 20 and the 25K swim. And in my head, so I played water polo. I played water polo last night and the night before. We're going to the World Masters and I'm not the biggest, I'm not the strongest, but I'm one of, if not the fittest in the pool. And good things happened in when you're the fittest. So let's just talk about this for you in terms of today. We're talking about leading your best life. Let's talk about what your daily routine looks like. Straight away, you've already talked about extraordinary, jumping in 5-degree water at the end of the day. Let me start with on a routine, because we say routine determines results. So what is the Luke Macca routine on a daily basis?
It starts off with a lovely 5 a.m. wake up. Yeah, every day of the week I'm waking up at 5 a.m. And that's to get to my latest passion, which is CrossFit. Every CrossFitter will tell you they're a CrossFitter, so I'm going to be the first one to tell you that. I go down to Belmont Chamber. Quick shout out to them; they've been awesome. And do my 5:30 class with them, and then head off to work. So I love CrossFit because in the past I've always been active. Majority of my life I played football, AFL, Aussie rules, bit of basketball as well. But the body as a early 30, mid 30-year-old now just doesn't like getting hit all the time. And that was me as a 6'6", sort of 115-kilo guy. I was always just running into people, and it got to a couple of Sundays where I just said, no, I need to stop feeling like I'm being hit by a semi-trailer all the time. So CrossFit took over there, and I couldn't ask for more in terms of fitness, mobility, and as the name suggests, being CrossFit, to be able to pick up anything. So, a mate last year asked me if I wanted to swim to Rotto in a team of four.
Mhm.
I've always enjoyed the water, as I said, but swimming long distance has just always bored me. But I could jump onto that. Got asked by another mate a little while ago to jump onto an ultra marathon down south in Cape to Cape. That enabled me to do that as well. Could I have done both of them while I was playing footy? Probably not. I would have had other niggling injuries and stuff. So I really, really enjoy my CrossFit. That gets me going for the day. And if I wake up and I've just had a shit sleep, or for some unknown reason I've lapsed for a second, I've gone, no, I'm just going to give it a break for the day. That afternoon, I realize, and I know I haven't done it, or I'll sleep crap, to be honest, if I haven't done that form of exercise. So I'll get that done in the morning, finish up, head to work. I work out at Jandakot now. So my current role is as a trainer in the oil and gas industry. So I teach people how to escape helicopters that crash into the water.
Right.
So that's called a Hewitt course, helicopter underwater escape training. And we put people into a giant cage, essentially, that looks like a helicopter. We roll them around in the pool, and then we train them on how to get out. And then I'll head home, jump in the ice bath, and then just catch up with my wife, really. If I can, I'll catch up with some friends. I'm a big family guy as well, so weekends are heavily involved around family. Brother, sister, and mum and dad, everyone's still together. Everyone's got their relative partners, so that's awesome. And yeah, and then camping whenever I can.
Fantastic, fantastic. And in terms of, say, books, well, I say you're not much of a reader. In terms of information, do you listen to podcasts, or what do you do in terms of which? Because we say if you are what you eat, take great care on what you feed your brain. So, what and how do you feed your brain in terms of information or stimulation or ideas? And
I love a challenge, so I'll usually stimulate myself by challenging myself to some sort of a fitness thing at the time, and have some sort of a goal. The current one at the moment is not around me, which is great for once. My wife's decided to start running, which is awesome. So I'm just trying to support that right now. So she's trying to get certain runnings running programs in, so helping her out. I've always been really, really interested in leadership for several different reasons. I've had some horrible, horrible leaders in my lifetime, in and outside of work. I've
Mm,
had some great leaders.
mm.
So I've always tried to learn a little bit about leadership. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed in several roles in my career being looked at as a leader and regarded as one. That's definitely driven me further and wanted me to get the best out of a team as well. So in terms of things like podcasts or books, look, I haven't read it, but I got the audio version of it, which was Extreme Ownership,
Yes.
from the Leif, and I forgot the other guy's name. He's a Navy SEAL over in America. Brilliant, brilliant book on being a leader. What I took from that was the dichotomy of being a leader and being quote unquote mates with your subordinates or those who are in your team, and how you can fine balance that. I think that's a massive skill in life, and those who can master that, I've got a lot of respect for. If you can gain respect off them, but then you can also get along with them at the same time. Um, Other books, yeah, I'm not a big reader, as I
No.
said. Yeah, I just love trying to learn as much as I can about leadership at the moment. That's my big passion. Yeah.
Well, I was literally going to move on to that in terms of leadership, coaching, mentoring, and particularly mentoring conversations. So I was looking around behind me because I've got a great book on the floor here somewhere that was written by David Parkin, who's a great Carlton, as you well know, coach, AFL coach. And it's just so good. And you immediately, when you said, I've had some great leaders and some not so great leaders, you reminded me in that book, Paul Roos talks about when he took over as coach of Sydney Swans. Um, he made a list of the characteristics of and what great coaches had done for him versus what shocking coaches had done. And one of the principles that he said was, the shocking coaches was as soon as a mistake was made, you were dragged from the ground and yelled at. So you was then playing with such a fear of making a mistake.
Yep.
So one of the first things he did with Sydney Swans is, so you make a mistake, I'm just keeping you out in the ground. So
Yeah.
just play with freedom. And of course, just that one little, which again reminds me of a conversation I had with Justin Langer, who, when he was still playing with Australia and West Australia, so there was a particular coach who I won't mention here in WA, he said he'd engendered so much fear in the
Mm.
players. They were so afraid to make a mistake that they were not, as you can imagine, as a batsman, start to cramp up, not move your feet, play with fear. It's
Yeah.
a bit like, from the metaphysical point of view, the very thing you focus on is what you're going to attract. I don't want to make a
Definitely.
mistake, don't want to make a mistake, don't want to make a mistake. Oh, shit, I made a mistake.
Yep.
So, from your point of view, can you recall one or two or three, be it in sport or in the police force or school teachers, leaders, influencers, mentors that have said certain things to, and it might just be one or two things that made all the difference? Give me a couple of examples.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, look, even from a holistic point of view, it's interesting that you talk about those two different columns of good leaders and what they represented, and then bad leaders. And I was only having a conversation with a work colleague a little while ago, who had asked me, quite a younger female, and she had been saying, "Oh, where did you gain any sort of leadership qualifications from, or I suppose hints and tips?" And I actually, on reflection with her at the time, I was like, you know what? I've actually learned the most from the worst leaders that I've ever had. And that is,
Not to be.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how, so always how I felt when they were doing what they were doing, either micromanaging, questioning me, um, not having any faith, not listening, not showing any empathy. And the way I felt about that, and that is how I will make decisions now on if it is going to be somewhat of a leadership or a role playing sort of decision. I'll think back to that and I'll go, how did that person make me feel? Do the
Mm,
exact opposite. It was
mm,
it was as simple as that.
mm,
She said, so you haven't learnt off a good leader? I said, yes, I have, but I've learnt more off bad leaders, believe
mm,
it or not.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
I'll remember them lessons more because
mm,
everyone remembers how they feel crap.
mm,
So yeah, I definitely got the most out of that. I've learnt to be able to try and, yeah, not micromanage. That's a big one that does just unfortunately naturally happen in the police force. I think it's
Mm,
because you get good at something, and this is how micromanaging always works and grows, is you get really good at something, and as a result of getting good at that, you get promoted or you get pushed up to the next role or the next level.
mm, mm, mm,
Someone else comes in and does your role, which you
mm,
were very, very good at. So naturally
mm,
you're like, oh no, this is how that got done. And you were so good at it that you got promoted, but you need
mm,
to take that realization of that umbrella look and go, no, these people could do the same job as you and they still need to learn. And on top of that as well, they could also do it better,
mm,
believe
mm,
it or
mm,
not.
mm,
Um, and that was one of the things I loved doing when I was in the dive squad, was finally getting into the role of doing the dive selection course, training and starting the careers for some new divers, and then them coming through and starting to make the squad even better than it was when I was first in it, and going, sweet, like these guys are doing better than me at the moment, and that is
mm,
awesome. Like we
mm,
collectively as a whole are doing awesome right now. It's because they're given freedom to do some pretty cool shit.
mm.
So that's a big kicker for me in that respect. Yeah.
It's only true because straight away, as you say, our part of it is our ego going, oh, I'm good. These new guys can't be as good. But if you can put your ego aside
Yeah.
to go, my job is to actually make this even better than it was. In fact, it reminds me of the code of the All Blacks, where they say, leave the Guernsey better than you found it. It's just quite incredible. Which I've got this book. The book, it's called Captain Coach Leadership: Performance Strategies from Professional Sport. David Parkin and Paul Burke. And I've had it for years. It's almost falling apart. But so many good stories in there in terms of getting the best out. And they use, whether it be Sydney Swans and a whole range of others. But getting that's my passion, is how do we get the best out of people and human beings. I literally had a meeting yesterday with an old mate who is executive chairman of a company down south of Fremantle. It's 3,000 employees, but he was talking about some of the simple things of, he didn't use the term servant leadership, but literally we'd go out in site and see the guy, his boots aren't so good. Go, mate, put them in, mate, let me go get you some new boots. So here it is, the executive chairman or high up in the company, mate, I'll go get you the extension cord. And they go, what the
Yeah.
hell? So it's servant. So he's not engendering fear. And he said, some of these safety officers come out and they start bollocking guys. No, I don't want you bollocking. I want you to actually just solve the problem for them.
Yeah.
They're the here. So, and interestingly, he reminded me of a model I'd drawn on a beer mat or something years ago, and two pyramids, of the pyramid of traditional organizations where you essentially shit rolls downhill.
Yeah.
You're in the boardroom and your job is to bloody make those guys at the front line, those dumb pricks, do their job, versus the other way. No, as the boardroom, your job is to support management, whose job it is to support. So it's a support leadership, servant leadership, which which is kind of what you're talking about there. Is, my job is to make these guys look good, versus my job is to keep these buggers in their boxes because they're so dumb. If I
Yeah.
don't, it's a completely different mindset and paradigm, isn't it?
And yeah, and I've even tried to look at it from a point of view of like, if you were truly a really, really good leader and you're leading a team, if you were that good and you manage that team well, you should not even have to be a SME in that field. So you could come in and get the best out of those people to get the goal and get the aims that you're all trying to achieve, obviously, and have no idea about what it is you're actually trying to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in other words, that your technical knowledge, you're not necessarily a genius, but you are good. Well, I literally told the story yesterday. A guy called Andrew Carnegie was the richest man in the world in around 1915, around the First World War. They sold the business, and in fact, he had a principle that all the managers would have shareholding in the company. So something like 53 of his managers became multimillionaires through the sale of the company. And
Yeah.
he was paying a guy called Schwartz $1 million a year. And this is prior to the Second World War. And people said, my God, what does this guy Schwartz know about steel making to pay him $1 million a year? He said, it's not so much what he knows about steel making as what he knows about how to get the best out of people. And I've literally followed that story all the way through, which is interesting in itself, because when Carnegie sold the business and retired, Schwartz became the key manager, but Schwartz's ego then took over, and he ended up like losing his money, getting divorced, becoming an alcoholic. So it's like Schwartz, coming back to your point, sometimes what you're talking about there is what we call the Peter principle. A person can get promoted to their level of incompetence. They're good at one level, they go one more level, but without any additional training or support,
Yeah,
the wheels can fall off,
yeah,
which is again what we're doing with this company down south. Is my mate says, I want the next generation to continue what we're doing, but we need to transfer all these subtle things that he's been doing as a servant leader, but it's not been articulated in any way. The guys, and they're doing a great job, by the way, with 3,000 employees. They're all like on the stock exchange and all sorts of things. But so that all of these little things around dealing with human beings, your point also of there's a great Chinese proverb that said, when the best leader's work is done, the people will say we did it ourselves.
yep,
You know,
yep.
you've created the space for them to to grow versus, as you say, micromanaging. So let's go here. Um, what is the future for Luke Macca? There's the book, there's the job. If I said what's going to happen for you over the next 2, 3, 4 years?
Oh, renovations at home.
Yeah, good, good.
I've definitely been able to get since leaving the police force, get that work-life balance back. That's for sure. So
Right.
to be honest, I'm just enjoying that. I'm enjoying the ride. I was a police officer from the age of 18 and 2 months old. Police cadet before that as well. So I only knew in my whole adult life how to sort of follow the blue line, and as so, such the terminology of all my blue eggs were in the basket, unfortunately.
Oh
Um,
my goodness. That
yeah,
sounds
yeah,
like real police force. You
yeah.
are second generation. Was your father's
Yeah.
father a policeman as well? I mean, how many
Um,
generations?
my mum was a police officer as well, and her granddad was a copper as well.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
God,
it's,
it's
it's
it's it's in the
sickening.
DNA.
Yeah, but mum and dad didn't want me to be, funnily enough. Yeah, they didn't think I had the nous for it, unfortunately. So I think it has hardened me up, that's for sure. As a kid, I was not as outgoing as I am now, that's for sure. But
Yeah,
yeah, I've definitely learnt to separate those eggs now. There was a terminology put to me a little while ago. Don't put all your blue eggs in one basket, and
blue eggs.
I'm now being able to, chuck a couple at fitness and for myself, put some into, my relationship with my wife and my friends,
Yes.
my family.
Mm.
That was a big realization from even writing that book, that there was some things that I was putting aside, e.g. family. I missed my sister's engagement party, and I always put the job first, and came up with some crap to myself and lied to myself, saying that, oh well, there's no one else to do it. I have to do it, when it simply just wasn't the case. It's a
Mm.
big
Mm.
realization for me. So yeah, just getting some routine still and enjoying it. We've got renovations going on. We just did our backyard up and got married in the backyard, which was amazing. But the next project
Fantastic.
will be the house. We've got our honeymoon at the end of the year, so we'll do renovations after that. Job wise, I'm in a really good company at the moment that are really supportive. Am I going to want to train the same course every day? I don't think so. That'll get boring soon, but it's a really good resting spot for me at the moment to
Yeah.
just come down a little bit from that policing. What my next step is, it's sort of open at the moment, and I like that ability to stay open. I always
Sure.
have this mindset of, not your job is always your career, and that is forever. And if you'd asked me on my first 5 to 10 years of the police force, I would have said, "Yep, cool, I'll be here till I'm 60 and I retire." Um, but I think the world is changing in that regard now, and a lot of people, majority, won't stay in the same career anymore, and I
Yeah.
want to just want to grow and learn more in terms of moving in and around, go to different locations, different skill sets, and take what I've got with me, because that's probably the biggest realization I've had since leaving the police, is that we are a very skilled workforce from the police force.
Yeah.
You don't think it when you're in the police, but leaving, you all of a sudden go, wow, like, people appreciate your ability to make decisions quickly, deal with, people on edge, deal with some situations that other people would go, I'm just going to go into my shell right now,
Mm. Mm.
and be dynamic and flexible as well. So
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
really enjoying that. Now, on a
Mm.
selfish level as well, weirdly enough, I'm enjoying that I'm wanted and valued outside of the police, that's for sure.
Mm. I can see what's going to happen, Luke, is the book, because it raises those issues in and around men's mental health. As you say, you're going to be talking at Men's Talk and Men's Shed and a range of other places, and people are going to be asking you for advice and help. And I can see that that is one possibility in terms of how to literally take that personal story,
Mm,
particularly the healing story, because let's just take the police force alone. As you know, there's a lot of PTSD and mental health issues. I mean, you being triggered by that one incident, um, and as you say, alcohol, the role that alcohol can play with the guys try and numb and dumb it, and it
yeah.
doesn't work. Which, by the way, I made the note. What are your rules these days around, let's say, alcohol diet? Obviously, you talked about exercise and sleep, but let's just talk about the alcohol thing. What are
Mm.
your rules these days around alcohol?
Funnily enough, I'm on a month off at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, me and my wife, we've had a massive 8 months with hens parties, bucks parties. She just turned 30. We had our wedding. And we went down south for the Margaret River Ultra. And after it, we were having a couple of red wines, and I had my last drink at the time. And I looked at her and I cheersed her, and I was like, "Do you think we should just have a little bit of time off?" And she goes, "Absolutely." So
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
and then, it wasn't to start on a Monday or a start of a month or anything. We just went,
Mm.
"Cool, we'll cap it for a fair few weeks."
Yeah.
And I think this weekend will be 4 weeks for us. Whether we jump back on the bandwagon or not, I don't think so. And I think it'll just turn into, like, I've got a lovely bar in the back of my yard, being grown up in Australia, and that's that culture. I've
Yeah.
got this massive bar overlooking my pool. Um, my number one rule for me is never just go out there and just have a beer, because uh,
Mm.
that I think is a very, very steep slope that you can fall into very quickly.
Yes.
I've got the ability to do it, and I love that I've got the discipline to not do it.
Mm.
Um, I think we just want to move forward and turn into, if it's a major celebration, wedding, good birthday, being with loved ones and friends that we really admire, yeah, cool, we can have one or two. But yeah, the days of writing yourself off are definitely gone, that's for sure. And it's just not worth killing the next day.
Yes.
Life's too short to waste a day or two after. And it's not a day hangover now, it's a 2 day hangover. So
Yes.
yeah, just cap it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting, mate. Interesting. Well, my yoga teacher, she's Austrian. She goes, I mentioned to her alcohol. "What, alcohol? Why would you do that to yourself? It's poison. It's toxic." Like it came over through the screen, but I'm like, it's
Yeah.
burnt into my
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah.
Why would you do that to yourself? And it's pretty much true, as you say. And I remember the guy James Corbin, I think it was the Tonight Show host, who eventually mentioned that he had an alcohol problem. He said, somebody in the alcohol world said something like, drinking is, particularly getting drunk, is borrowing happiness from tomorrow for today, but then
Yeah.
you pay it back with interest
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's quite, and as you say, that whole thing of the habit of thinking, "Oh, it's the end of the day, I'm going to have a drink on my own." It's kind of like that is the other side of the fence versus, as you say, special occasions and all those things. And straight away, you've made that point. Can have one or two, which again, my wife had said to me, "Do you count your drinks?" And this is, years ago. What are you talking about? In water polo, we'd start and we'd just like I've known we've been 13 beer shouts. It's like
Yeah.
ridiculous, after a training or a game. And eventually I heard an interview with Rod Stewart, and Rod Stewart said, "Look, I might have one, I might have two, three will be a big night." But I went, "Wow." I never, so often, if I'm these days, for the last 3 or 4 years, I literally, if I'm going somewhere and there's drinks, in my head, I already know I'll be having one, two at the maximum. Now, in the old days, there's no way. Two would have been a warm up,
Yeah, exactly. You're just getting into it. Yeah,
Just,
exactly. And
it's like you're just stretching
footy
the
background as
hammies.
well. Same thing, definitely.
Yeah.
I actually, I now try and resonate with a very good friend of mine, Robbie Kerr. He's not been drinking now for, God, I think 6, 7 years. He had a
Mm,
fairly big childhood. Well, not childhood, sorry.
mm.
You know,
As a
early
teenager, though.
early 20s and stuff
Mm,
like that. Went pretty hard at it.
mm.
Went to do a challenge of a 1 year off, and then just continued it, which I take my
Yes.
hat off to. And I was having coffee with him one day after he'd done it for a few years, and I remember asking him, like, "Oh, so what is the reason? Do you just turn into someone you don't want to turn into, or anything?" And he goes, "It's interesting you asked me that, Macca, because the way that I'm starting to look at it is, instead of people asking me why am I not drinking, I tend to ask people now why they are drinking." And it's
Yes.
something that I have thought about when I start to have a big night, or if I'm gonna have a relatively big night, and I go,
Mm, mm.
am I drinking for the wrong reason?
Mm,
And that sort of conversation stems back, because I think that's where we are as a society wrong in the terms of the way that we think and talk about it. We
yes.
always know that person that's not drinking, and as an Australian culture, we always ask them, "Oh, what are you not drinking for? Is it
Yeah.
Dry
Yeah.
July? Is it some
Yeah.
challenge?" Well,
Yeah.
no, it's just the fact that I don't want to drink.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or better yet, why are you drinking? Is there something
Yes.
you're not really talking about, and you're not able to talk about, and you're just dumbing it? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mate, it's interesting. I literally had this conversation. I did some work in Nice in France. My mate David Horlock was an international manager of British Standards Institute, but we did a 2 or 3 day workshop in Nice. And at the end of it, by that stage, there were guys from Italy and France and Australia, all over the place. And I'd already thought about this, that if you talk about the Germans, the Germans, Australian, New Zealand, but not so much New Zealand, Australians, British, this whole thing of, you'd hear guys go, mate, he got so pissed last night. Oh, geez, it was unbelievable. Whereas I talked to the Italian guy, I said, mate, what's your attitude to drinking? He says, I may have one, I may have two, but why would I be so drunk? I'm sitting like so this, I cease to be fascinating. You see, and he also said,
that's a
why
good
would
point.
do women find the guy like that? So they're being attacked, and it's like, and
Yeah,
also he talked about somewhere in that culture is if a man has lost control of himself through being like, well, you're so pissed, you did all that. He's not a man any longer
yeah,
because he's
yeah,
lost control of himself. I went, wow, what a paradigm, what a
yeah.
that's clearly, and it's very helpful because they're not going to drink that much. Um, so a couple of things I'm going to do here. Firstly, I'm going through some of these summary notes, which are just fantastic, mate. Everything from um, think about think about what's going on, and I love that question. I mean, that point you said the brick wall I didn't know that I had up, and the power of active listening. The person who, whether it be the chaplain, whether it be your dad, the psych, a good mate, the power of active listening. And as you said, I never thought I'd need a psych. And of course, I ask you what you learn. And the interesting thing, coming back to alcohol numbing and dumbing, of course, what we know is that alcohol depresses the inhibitory centers of the brain. So there you are on that night. Once you were drunk, the handbrakes were off, and what was there came out.
Yeah,
What you'd
yeah,
been sitting on all that time came out. And I suppose where we're at in terms of men's mental health is we need to be able to have conversations with people where as you say, what's going on. I mean, there it is, the question. Let's talk about what's going on for you. One of the clients that I spoke to just recently, an ex-SAS guy, he said, "Are you okay?" is actually not the right question because it can only lead to yes or no. Yeah, I'm okay, I'm not okay. Versus on a scale of 1 to 10, if 0 is I'm feeling shit house and 10 is I'm feeling fantastic, where would you put yourself?
yeah, yeah,
Which then starts to go, what's going on for you at the moment? And what we know from the research is something like 40 to 60% of blokes have never spoken to anyone about what's going on in their internal world, even to the point where their ability to articulate. One of the Yank comedians, Bill Burns, red-headed bloke, very funny, said he made a joke of the fact that he got depressed when he went off the road as a comedian. And he said, because as men, it's either I'm fine, or I'm bloody pissed off, I'm bloody pissed off. There's kind of no in between,
yeah, yeah,
versus I'm sad, or I'm depressed, or I'm unhappy, or I'm feeling shitty about myself, or whatever words we put to it. But in most cases, a bloke would not. But of course, it's so important that we do have those conversations.
yeah.
So, mate, it's been fantastic. What haven't we talked about, Luke, that you'd like to talk about before we move into the home straight?
Oh, mate, I suppose I did just quickly recapping there in my own head as well. The one thing that I did sort of fail to finish off on the book side of things was
Yep.
when that incident occurred to me down in Walpole. I went on another camping trip with my wife, and I was able to then do this epilogue, which is actually my most favorite chapter in the book, because it identifies that, and it identifies that it's okay to not be okay. I think that's literally the
Oh,
last
love it.
the last
It's a
sentence in the book. Yeah.
uh,
And if ex cops or ambos and fireys or ex-vets or anyone are listening now to it, that's probably my biggest message, and that I didn't know was the point of the book until I got to the end of that. And I just love to push that message out there and tell them that, yeah, it's fine to not be okay. I thought I was fine as well, as you just mentioned. It's easy to say that, and it's just a yes or no answer,
Mm.
but I clearly wasn't. So yeah, if I can just put that sort of message out there as well as a highlight, that's the main thing.
Mate, two things have come to mind there as you're saying. One, the power of the camping trip. What happens when you get into nature? You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah,
Something happens in nature, which of course the ancients have known for thousands of years. Something happens in terms of connection with nature, whether you call it spirituality, whether you call it, but something happens in terms of your meditation, your internal reflection. So the fact that those thoughts came to you in nature is not coincidental.
yeah,
But the other
definitely.
point there, it's okay to not be okay. What I'm literally doing after I finish with you today is I'm setting up a business called That's a T-shirt company. But when I hear something that's and see something that's inspirational, I say change from the inside out and the outside in. That one, where like straight away, I see that's a T-shirt. It's okay to not be okay. That's a
Yeah.
T-shirt, that's a hoodie, that's a coffee cup. Mate, I'll put your name on the bottom of it, because, by the way, some of the profits will be going to mental health charities
Good.
anyway. So it's not all about fun. I'm trying to make some money. But it literally is the power of words. I mean, well, let's just, one of the, I'm constantly collecting, I'm like a bloody magnet for great sayings. But just the other day, there's a great Bruce Lee saying, take great care in what you, in fact, mate, if I can dig it up, let me dig it up because it's too
Oh,
good.
please, please.
It's too good. And in fact, you saw on the interview with Bruce Lee, power of spelling words. Let me just see where it is. There it is. I'll put the image up. There it is. Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. Words are energy and cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Change the way you speak about yourself, and you can change your life. What you're not changing, you're also choosing. I mean, straight away, just
That's
words are energy and cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. You know,
Oh, that's brilliant. And like I've got a very, very good mate of mine who I yeah, use as a mentor and uses as a backboard constantly. And it's really interesting that comes up. I'll joke every now and then and call it Australian humor or culture or whatnot, but I'll bag myself out. And he's the first one to actually jump on me every time and go like, "Don't say that about yourself."
call you
And
out on it.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's really really interesting the impact it has, because if I then the next time we're having a conversation or in the same conversation, I have that mindset to think about that joke that I'm going to say, I'll refrain from it because I know he'll call me out on it, and it
Yeah.
bloody works. Yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah. Well,
really
I literally put together like a little ebook the other day just on that because in amongst it it called it conscious language.
mm,
Conscious language. Be conscious of those words I'm putting out there because one, they have an impact on me, but they also
mm,
can have an impact on others.
yeah,
Both loose language around on others, let alone words as Bruce Lee said, they cast spells. So let me just the other thing I wanted to share. People want to get in contact with you, Luke.
yep,
First of all, I think we had what happened there. What happened? Well, we've got there. You are on. There you are on LinkedIn.
yep,
People can get hold of you there, and they can get hold of your book in the book section on Amazon. And I don't know why that just changed. Then Luke Macca, I'll go back. There you are. There you are on
Facebook.
Facebook, so people can get hold of you on Facebook as well. And in fact, I just was just going back to, as I say, I've even put that Bruce Lee quote on my own.
Yeah,
And I love some of the stuff that comes out of the Buddhist world. And clearly, family is not about blood; it's about who's willing to hold your hand when you need it most. And certainly, what
yeah,
you're doing with the book, and people, whether it be not only your dad, but the people around you and your mate, by the way, challenging you on the language you use is part of your family. Here
yeah,
it is.
definitely.
Your mind is a garden, and your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. So, what are you nurturing with your mind? So, mate, again, there's me yesterday coming out of the ocean. So, mate, talk about role models. This guy Barlow still playing. I think he said he's played with 50 different clubs, just going out and promoting uh, football and mental health and life, which is what you're doing, mate. By the way, is getting out there and role modeling. One, taking a trigger, an adverse situation, and taking the lessons and learnings from it. So if I was going to ask you, my final question is always, if you were going to be able to talk to the 13-year-old Luke Macca, what would be 3 tips you'd give him from what you've learned now to lead his best life?
Ooh, always try and turn a negative into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes straight away from those what you would call a bad leader, I suppose.
Yeah.
Um, the way I've been able to learn from that, but probably at too late of a time. I would have loved to have known that a little bit earlier, and try and always not dwell on the negatives, but go, right, what can we learn from it, and what's a positive, which I suppose we naturally do. But if you can identify that quicker, that would be awesome.
Well, no, some people then dwell on the negative and think it's
Yeah,
permanent. That's
yeah,
part of that whole. They think it's me. I'm hopeless. This is always going to happen. There's
yeah.
no hope. Versus, what can I learn from it? How do I turn it to a positive?
Yeah, and crap's always going to happen. Like it's
Yeah,
life, unfortunately.
that's another T-shirt, mate. Crap's always going to happen. You're right. I love it. See, you're just coming out with the gems.
Oh, I got sayings galore, trust me.
Yeah,
Um, be open-minded.
yeah,
Try and respectfully and with a bit of common sense, try and say yes to everything. That's definitely one thing I've really tried to do lately in the leaving that police force type of thing is even with the networking that my new job comes up with, it's amazing to just say yes to
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Don't do what the movie did with Yes Man. That obviously goes down the rabbit hole too far, but
Yes, yes, yeah,
respectfully. 3, jump onto that fitness train as soon as you can in life and never lose it.
yeah,
It
mate.
bloody sucks when you get injured and you feel it when you're getting older. We all wish we were, well, I've always wished I was fitter, and I suppose that's what I'm always aspiring to. Weirdly enough, I feel like I'm the fittest I've ever been, and I'm getting older. I'm waiting for that bell curve.
Just put this in perspective. How old are you again?
34.
Right, I'm dead double your age, mate. Shut up. It's just a number. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it.
exactly,
It's just a
exactly.
number. That's
And
another
I want
T-shirt. Age is just a number. Oh God, I've got so
to.
many T-shirts I've got to put together.
No, look, and if I can swim the Rotto twice when I'm 67, I'm going to be bloody happy about that too. And I
Yeah,
like aspiring to those kind of people and those kind of fitness levels because yeah, you see too many people these days that are just struggling to get up a staircase or
yeah,
climb into a car, and
yeah.
I do not want to ever be there, that's for sure. So take it while you can and make the most of it, I suppose. Yeah.
Great, mate. Luke, this has been fantastic, mate. People get hold of the book, get hold of Luke, and Luke, we'll edit this up. I'll get it to you, and we'll get this out to the people via YouTube and Spotify and Apple. And good luck with everything you do moving forward. Keep making a difference, mate. And I won't be around when you're 68, but but. I hope you do it. I'm sure you will do it. You'll do a lot of great things between now and then. Thanks for your time, mate. All the best.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it, mate.